Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for coming. This session has been described for some reason as the last journalist. I don't know why they have said so, because it is a way of my claiming that I'm the only journalist in the country or the last journalist in the country, both of which are very bad. Anyway, journalists don't like me. So this is going to make things more, worse for me. But I would just like to say that it is an absolute privilege to be speaking before the next, which is going to be one of the most important sessions, I guess, of Imaginext, which we at Republic are very proud to associate with, because the next session is going to be with the great man sitting there in the front row, far more important than me. His name is Sridhar Vembu. Sridhar Vembu of Zoho, who's making our country proud. And you should just see the last tweet he put out. And Sridhar's tweet about why Indian technologists need to come back home is already setting social media ablaze. So I think you should look forward to his session more than mine. But since I have been asked to speak about the last journalist, there is this assumption that technology can do anything. Technology can act, technology can direct, technology can paint, technology can do poetry, technology can do music, and so technology can also do journalism. What's the big deal about journalism? What is the big deal about being a journalist? Everything is replicated and replicable. But I'll tell you, technology can do a lot of things. It can do the mechanics of news production. It can take you to the limits of news production. It can render a graphic beautifully in a short period of time, It can edit a video to near perfection. It can, in fact, in the last budget that we broadcasting, Sarvam AI partnered with Republic, and Sarvam AI did a live translation of Nirmala Sitharaman's speech with a latency of 30 seconds. We thought the latency will be 1.5 minutes. And it was live translating it into Bengali, live translating into Hindi. And it was incredible because Nirmala Sitharaman was seen to be speaking pure Sanskritized Hindi in her speech. So technology is a force mobilizer. It can get people across multiple languages and beam it to different audiences. It can do a lot of things in terms of expanding your reach. But you see, it cannot do what the purpose of journalism is. And what is the purpose of journalism? Purpose of journalism is not efficiency. It is gut instinct. AI can give you information on a story, but it cannot make your heart beat faster with the coverage you do on a particular story when you're speaking for the people. AI, artificial intelligence, can give you their technology, assist you to produce the story, but technology does not have a moral compass. It starts hallucinating in its own way. Technology doesn't tell you the difference between right and wrong, between black and white, between truth and falsehood. And that is the biggest problem as far as AI and technology in the context of journalism is. It actually makes me very happy because then I can never be replaced. My reporter can never be replaced. The human being can never be replaced. At the end of the day, a machine is not a human being. And you need human beings to read and follow human beings. Imagine a world where all of you were sitting here and the guiding force behind you, deciding your feelings and emotions and responses to story was not a Arnab Goswami, but a robot. Maybe you'll say a robot would be better. But trust me, at some point of time, I would differentiate between right and wrong. A robot would not. And that's the danger. I always feel that the limits of application of artificial intelligence in defense, drones, and it has limits, because beyond a point of time, you arm the drone with the decision-making ability and don't have a human behind it, it can end destroying its own creator. And we need to be very wary and conscious of that, because AI actually is a machine, and machines do not cultivate first-hand sources. They rely on, they don't have trust, they don't have feel, they don't have values. And you live in a world without values. You live in a world without morals, without right and wrong, black or white. You live in a world of pure convenience. What world would that be? Today, our dear Sridhar Vembu, before coming in, showed me a tweet that Donald Trump had put out. Have you seen the Donald Trump tweet? I should say which one, right? Sridhar, which one, Sridhar? The one 5 minutes back or the one 15 minutes back? But he's done something like he's told everybody who has a green card to come back home and reapply, or go back home and reapply. He's created havoc for Indian technologists. And we were having breakfast, and over 2 idlis, Sridhar put out a tweet, a counter tweet, which has now got, Sridhar, what, thousands of likes within the last 10 minutes, where he said this is more proof that you need to come back home and build a great Bharat. So where Sridhar came from was from the world of values towards creating our country, towards creating Bharat. And the danger of artificial intelligence is it does not fully respect this greatest value of all, which is nation first. What we call in Hindi, Rashtra Sarvopari, nation first. Nationalism. Without nationalism, without values, without a moral compass, can there be journalism? Let me ask you, can there be journalism without all of these things above? It can't. I'll give you one example. Today, 15 minutes before I came here, police have entered the home of a judge in Bhopal. This is the case of Tuisha Sharma, 33-year-old, possibly killed by her own in-laws and her own husband, possibly, I'll say allegedly. And because the mother-in-law was a powerful retired judge, she called everybody. She called the Director General of Police. She called judges. She called investigating officers. She even called CCTV technicians to remove the CCTV footage which had proof about the disposal and destruction of evidence. Now, I ask you this. When a young girl is found hanging mysteriously in the room, her husband is on the run. The mother-in-law, a judge, is coolly strolling, watching her die in CCTV footage. AI will not be able to understand the importance of that story. I will be able to understand. My reporter will be able to understand, because I know the domino effect it has on people, because I have a conscience, and I will say, I want to reform my country, and if I can expose one wrongdoing, it will have an impact on 1,000 others. And therefore, I have to be able to chase this story. I have to be able to put all my resources available on this story. I have to push it to the point where the CBI has to follow the story, where the Chief Minister has to follow the story, where public sentiment determines the course of the action. So when you speak of the last journalist, I hope that day never comes when there is a last journalist, because the last journalist disappears, then our society goes forever. I'll give you another example. You heard about the case of the Aravalis. Did you hear the Aravali case? So the Supreme Court said overnight that we will redefine what the mountain range is. We will say that the Aravalis are not a mountain range. So all of the Aravalis which are there on northwestern part of India would have been broken down, and you would have apartment complexes, mining lobbies would have taken over. If artificial intelligence would have taken over the story, it would be a vanilla copy of the Supreme Court order. It would have not been a challenge. But when you see a journalist questioning another human being who was Chief Justice of India till 2 days earlier, and the Chief Justice tells the journalist, what do you know about the law? And then you look at him in the eye and you say, don't teach me the law, Mr. Justice. You have been the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, but I know the law too, and this is my interpretation of the law, And I want to ask you why 2 days before you retired, you gave that order which would have resulted in thousands of crores of revenue for a few companies. And along with that, I send my reporter with a sting camera to expose the mining mafia in the middle of the night in the Aravalli range. I take chances. I risk our own life and I follow the story. Technology can never do that story. Today we are in the age of replicable opinion. During Operation Sindoor, every second person became a defense analyst. Everybody took a camera, sat at home with a green background virtual screen, and everybody decided that they would tell the Indian army how to fight the war. And everybody with a map started calculating, you should go to Karachi, you should go to Lahore, then you should turn left, you should go right, you should fire these missiles, as if the Indian army had no idea what to do. Now, if you take the case of the Pahalgam attack, let's imagine artificial intelligence covering the Pahalgam attack. How would it have covered the attack? Why the Pahalgam attack? How would artificial intelligence have covered the October 7th attack on the Israelis by the Hamas? Can you calculate the importance of a news event by the sheer statistics of it? Will you say X number of people died and hence this is the amount of time I will give to a story? No, you cannot. Pahalgam was covered in a big way because it was Pakistan sponsored and people were targeted on the basis of their religion. Now that is a reality. They were targeted on the basis of their religion. I remember what the feeling, what the sentiment post Pahalgam is. The third point is, technology does not have sentiment. And that is the biggest problem with technology. Technology makes things very objective. Everything becomes a chatbot. And that's the precise problem between technology and journalism. I remember the rush, the feel we felt when we saw the images of Indian counterattack on Pakistan. And I think that it also shows in the language you use, how much you scream and shout, how passionate you are in that moment, how involved you are in the debate, and all of these things, the sheer emotion of it, right, wrong, emotion, values, nation first, these things I hope will never be replicated, never ever be replicated by a machine. What can machines not do? Machines cannot distinguish. It can tell you what is broadly authentic and not authentic, but what machines cannot do is it cannot take chances, it cannot take risk. We did a story once on Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav. You know Lalu Prasad Yadav? Do the younger people know Lalu Prasad Yadav? Okay. We know Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav once got a phone call, and the phone call was from a mafia don called Shahabuddin. Those who are from Bihar will understand Mohammed Shahabuddin. And he was the leader of the RJD and the ruler of Bihar. The mafia don called him and he said, "What the hell are you doing?" He said in Hindi. So Lalu said, "Kya hua?" He said, "Your policemen have dared to take on my people." And he said, and this call was made from jail. The mafia don was in jail. And Lalu Prasad said, no, but what happened? He said, "Your policemen have dared to take on my people," which means his people are the Bahubalis, the mafia. And then Lalu said, "Don't get angry." In Hindi, he said, "Don't get angry, let me find out." He said, "What the hell do you mean find out? Why are you chief minister if you cannot tell your police to stop targeting my people?" And then Lalu, almost like with a sense of servitude, said, "Don't worry, I'll just handle it. I'm sorry this happened to your people." Can you imagine that 90-second phone conversation, what it reveals? Now, if I run the story, if I put out the tape, I run political risk with Lalu. I run legal risk Because Lalu can file a case on me, say it was not my voice. It was generated. Because you can never prove it. He can say it was artificially generated. At that point of time, what I have to do as a journalist is I have to say, between contempt of court, between defamation, between intimidation, between suing, between threatening, between standing in a witness box, between doing the right thing and still being told I've done a wrong thing, I will take the risk and run the story. Because I want to teach these politicians a lesson. Artificial intelligence, a machine, can never take that risk. It will always proceed on the side of caution. And I think journalism is about not having caution. If you're too cautious, you cannot be a journalist. If you're too cautious, you cannot have independent editorial judgment. You will always go on the basis of information. And now I'll say one more thing, which may be controversial, but a journalist can never be neutral. A neutral journalist is not a journalist. Neutrality is a mask. It is a mukhota. It is a disguise that you wear to avoid taking a stand. I first said this ironically at a Wikipedia conference in Mumbai. And since then, Wikipedia has not called me to any of their events. Because Wikipedia claims to be neutral, but it is the most biased thing in planet Earth. There is nothing more biased in this world than Wikipedia. Neutrality therefore becomes a mask, but because Wikipedia has given it a veneer of authenticity. You see, is Arnab Goswami a good man? Arnab Goswami is a bad man because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reasons. Right? Is Sridhar Vembu a good man? Sridhar Vembu can be a good man or a bad man, basis the published sources that you are citing. Now suppose there are many sources which are not published, which say that Arnab Goswami is a good man, but because they are not published, they are not cited. And because they are not cited, the opinion that comes veers towards saying Arnab Goswami is a bad man. The point I'm saying is, if the Western media, Western sources, or Western bias projects you as good and bad, basis who writes what about you. So I can quote a number of leftist or quasi-leftist sources on me, which I will say are biased against me, but because they've been published about me, the sum total, now when it goes through artificial intelligence funnel, if you do a Google search on me, right? If you do a Google search on me, you can do it right now, you will find the AI version will veer towards reinforcing stereotypes about the individual basis what has been published. So it can reinforce bias. And hence, the core value of journalism is to not be neutral. Can you be neutral between India and Pakistan? Can you be neutral between India and Pakistan? The classical definition of journalism says, be neutral between India and Pakistan. They will tell you, you must take a journalist away from his own personal views, even if the views reiterate the idea of nation first. So therefore we say, for example, for us, we say, we're an ideology-driven network. What is your ideology? My ideology is my country. My independent editorial judgment is for my country. What I publish, what I hold, what I verify, what I suggest, what I do, the risk I take, everything. The only thing I will not compromise is my country. Then they will say, how do you know what is good for your country? There I will apply my independent editorial judgment and I will say, exposing Aravali is good for my country in my view. Fighting for a 33-year-old Twisha is a good thing in my view. Keeping the government line on Operation Sindoor is good for the country, and not hyping up a story for TRPs is good for my country. That's my view. That's exposing the tape of Lalu Prasad is my view. And that is journalism. Journalism is your view. So when your view is for the nation, only then the nation can progress. Yes, since yesterday we were meeting all these people and I realized that this country will be great not only on the basis of technology, not only on the basis of entrepreneurship, but also on the basis of an independent editorial ideology of nation first. I do not believe we can be Viksit Bharat and a broken up Bharat. a divided Bharat. So what I do is I go everywhere and I say, do what you want to do. You think you will be economically successful, but ideologically dead. You think that you will be a $50 trillion economy, but be broken up into 50 different identities. And you believe that India will be an over-federalized India where the concept of nationhood will die. Remember, when you tear apart the core beliefs of a nation, the nation breaks. So whatever we have to do, why there can never be a last journalist in the country? Because if there is ever a last journalist in this country will not stay united. So we are presently working on a mission. I would like to share 5 more minutes of it with you. When I left my last job, I said, I don't want to be without a job, so let me have my own channel so nobody can sack me. But over a point of time, I've realized the importance to scale. So I think scalability in media is very important. So I keep going around. I've scaled in English, then Hindi, then Bengali, then Kannada, and we hope to go to various languages. The Indian news market is not a single market. It is a federation of language audiences, each with distinct concerns, formats, and trust signals. What we are trying to do is spread the ideology of nation first using fantastic technology. In recent months, we've realized the importance is to grow on digital, so that you have a few more authentic sources than these Ranveer Alavadia types who actually do genuine news in this country. Remember always, it is easy to sit with a person and ask him, what is the most ghoulish ghost you have ever met? And there are people who actually do 1-hour podcasts, what does a ghost feel like? Or then you want to consumerize Hinduism, and you want to talk about Hinduism in nuggets and ways, and then you want to go to the borders of what is scurrilous or sleazy conversations in order to get audiences. I know it is appealing, but trust me, they do not replace a reporter chasing a judge in Bhopal. They can never replace a journalist exposing a mining scam in Rajasthan. They can never replace the adrenaline of taking on a Lalu Prasad Yadav and the actual mafia in this country. Journalism is done on the ground. It is not done in studios. It is not done on YouTube channels. It is not done on podcasts. So what we are doing is we are building reach. We've grown to 150 million on Republic. And finally, we have a dream. And I came here actually to share that dream with you. I've been evangelizing the idea of, since the world is flat and digital gives us an opening, all of us. I said this in Moscow in 2015. And I'd say this today, and we all seek your blessings on that. We say India will be the next media capital of the world. And I'll repeat every word I said in Moscow. It is in countries like India, with a large, which is a democracy, which is a young population, which is very technologically adaptable, and a country which speaks better English than any country of the world. I don't think any nation in the world has as many hundreds of millions of English speakers speaking grammatically perfect English than anywhere in the world. So technology, language, youth, and the ability to use technology for pervasive digital media can only happen in India. And India's power will grow not just in economic terms. India's power will not just grow in technology terms. India's power will grow in the ability to use the digital medium to grow scale. So in 2026, we are launching Republic Global from a newsroom in Noida. And I used to dream because I used to go around in London and go to media houses. And I used to dream that maybe one day we will own these media companies in the West. Maybe we will own the Sunday Times. Maybe we will own the Spectator. But I don't think we need to own their brands. We need to make sure that our narrative, our belief, our way of looking at things reaches the last mile everywhere from Wales to Wisconsin. And I truly believe that we are within a few weeks from doing that. In the recent coverage of the Iran war, I'm happy to share with you that we got more viewership than Al Jazeera. If you take Republic head-to-head 100% war coverage, we had more streaming traffic than Al Jazeera. We're still behind BBC and CNN. But remember, this is without a global newsroom. Now imagine I put a layer of technology on it. I put a layer of Indian technology on it. I make sure we're available on every digital platform and OTT platform in the world. And imagine that I have a reporter in Caracas, and I can tell you an Indian reporter will be allowed in Iran, not an American reporter. All I need is a base everywhere in the world, and I need to centralize it from the soil of Bharat. So what we are doing is, we are saying that we are going to use technology to conquer the world, to build a aggressive Indian, Bharatiya newsroom broadcasting to the world. So the next time Mearsheimer and Jeffrey Sachs speak, they speak to Republic before they speak to BBC or CNN. And it is so close. Only if we stop looking only within. We just need to think we can do it for the world. So we believe that great men like Sridhar Vembu will build technologies for the world, and he will fight with Salesforce and Microsoft and all the other guys, and we have an ability to fight and beat nicely BBC, CNN and Al Jazeera, and provide the first Asian global alternative to the world. So I hope you take me up on this, because 6 months from now, I hope that when you watch global news, it will first be on your own homegrown global platforms. Not for the Indian diaspora. Not just for the Indian diaspora, but for the world. So I will wrap up with that. And it's like driving, you know. When I first drove outside India, I was very scared. But then someone told me, don't be scared, because if you can drive in Mumbai, you can drive in Noida, you can drive anywhere in the world. So if you can do news in India, you can do news anywhere in the world. And I think we can do that. And I think in this world dominated by the unilateralism of Trump, and Trump is not a today phenomenon. People say Trump. I said Trump is a manifestation of what's happening in America. Trump is not a temporary factor. The next leader will be worse than Trump. There will always be a Trump in American politics. Like people used to say that the CIA is a temporary phenomenon. Do you know there is a rule that the American Senate and the Congress had actually passed a law that the CIA would never legally be allowed to carry out assassinations anywhere in the world? Because there was an expose on the CIA in the 1970s. And then they thought, when these bad CIA guys go, then the next CIA guys will be nice guys. And then Soleimani happened and Gaddafi happened. And now you have seen what happened with Khomeini and Iran. So anyone who thinks that Trump is a 2026 phenomenon that is over with the midterms is making a mistake. There is going to be America, and there is going to be China, and then there is going to be India. And our romance with the rest of the world will end the moment we move from being a 4 to 10 to $20 trillion economy. We will not be a subject of interest. We will be a competitor. There will be no romance between us and the West. We will not do soft power through yoga alone. And therefore, we have to arm ourselves with the soft power of the media narrative. That's why there is need for Republic Global, and there is an interest why we are going to do this. So I hope if you're hearing this, you will spread this message among everyone. And I thank ImagineX for calling me. I want to thank Deepak Lamba and the ImagineX team for letting us collaborate with them, for letting us take these conversations outside, and for inviting us here today. So have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back with Sridhar Vembu in a bit. And thank you very much. Thank you.